Welcome back to AusBiz. It's been another busy year for PAC Capital, the market capital provider up to its eyes with institutional access from Citi, Bell Potter and Shores. It's been a double-digit year so far. PAC Capital Managing Director Clayton Larcombe joins us live here in Barangaroo to walk us through some of the big moves. Clayton, pleasure to have you on the program. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me back.
Can we talk capital raisings in particular? Because this has been a really interesting one. You've participated in quite a few, and it's been a big year for capital raisings. How have you gone about being selective?
It's got a lot of press capital raises, obviously through March and COVID crisis, and for a lot of different reasons, through the IWF transaction and this, diluting retail holders. It caught a lot of bad press, but it essentially was the ASX did a great amount of work the way they did with it, and the way that I, as a small institutional client with a few $100 million under management, getting access from Citibank and brokers on the institutional side, allowed me to feed down into my portfolios to give retail people access. So it was a win-win for everyone. So we have quite a small allocation to direct equities. We have used a lot of managers and ETFs and a very combined portfolio. And we have a concentrated 10 to 15 key positions that we like, and all those ones stacked up for us. So.
And is that both small and large cap? How do you measure that in your own book?
Yeah, well, we've got a few different mandates. Obviously, for the diversified portfolios, we have to stay within the ASX 200. We have a 5% discretionary. We can go outside of that. And then we have a growth portfolio where people can get access to 50% outside of that, 50% inside. So those ones just ticked a lot of boxes for us. And NAB at 14, 15, that was just a buy all day.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, because you've got a couple of top picks, and I just want to go through some of your topics. Large cap, you got Telstra in there.
Yeah,
This is a very unloved stock over the last number of years, which I imagine is why you've picked it as a top pick. Is it a valuation call? Give us some sort of colour around that.
It is a hard word to say. Everyone's been burnt.
What?
And
what do your clients say when you say, Telstra? Their eyes must roll.
They do, but you can only stand by your track record and performance. They say, look, we trust you, and it's a very small allocation. It'll be less than 1% in your portfolios.
Okay. Yep.
So that diversification is so key. Let me talk about Telstra. We've seen a huge revolution in the tech space. 5G is rolling out hard, and I was watching it, and as we were talking about today, that space is one that I've been on this show talking about esports before, and that whole space is just booming. Telstra for us they own the lines and own the gateway to it, and $3 valuation for it. It just looks, it's unloved. It's time. It's the dividend policy's been hurt retail clients. It's time to sort of add that in. With the $3.60 to $4 price targets from all the big houses.
Well, what about last week's announcement though, in terms of splitting it in three?
Yeah, it's going to cause. How do I feel about that?
Well, just how that impacts as far as your decision making on Telstra is concerned. Then.
Yeah, look, I think the market has factored a lot of this stuff in. It's been pain cave for a while, and there's not much more bad news can come. Yeah. For it really.
It's kind of at the bottom.
Yeah.
Dividend wise, do you care if it pays dividends or not? Like, where do you stand on the dividend spectrum?
It's an important part for both our portfolios, for wholesale and retail portfolios, because dividend is what drives income, pension payments, and all that sort of things. But also, you've got to look at the collective growth of how your portfolio and asset allocation is going to grow over time. You've got to look at a holistic point of view and go by 5 to 10%. And how much dividends does that include? We think there's a growth upside, not a lot of dividends at this stage, so that's going to outweigh the dividend.
So it's basically a play on technology, right?
Totally.
And it's a valuation play on technology. Can we talk what else you like? Because I always like a small cap pick in particular. They've done pretty well, a lot of the small caps this year. You can make a lot of money off them. Security Matters, SMX.
This is a micro small cap that is in a similar theme. This is an Israel tech company that I've followed for a long time. I talk to the management very closely. And what this does is essentially have security that has... essentially they've produced a technology that is essentially a barcode or a chip that goes into... And this is the smallest molecule you can imagine. That goes into products to identify that that's theirs using a scanner machine. For example, they're in talks with Intel, BHP, to make sure their steel is their steel. And Continental Tires, because essentially this revolves in the recycling process. If someone else gets in there and mixes the rubber, You know, how does that result in testing? Oh, that's all our rubber in the recycling, or is it being mixed with other products? And do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So this,
So is it? Do they, in terms of revenue or sales, is it by signing on more and more of these contracts?
Yeah. So they're in obviously the Perth Mint, and the gold, because they want to identify this is our gold. This is not a gold from a mine we're not recognised.
Yeah, right.
So they've got a contract with Perth Mint.
Okay. All right, let's switch to something a little more broad than ETFs. What are you liking?
I've been on here before talking about the Esports ETF.
Yeah, you've mentioned it once already.
I'm not going to mention that again.
All the rage at the moment. Everyone's doing esports at the moment. It's just suddenly blown up this year.
It sure has, you know, and that's sort of why we've added esports into the portfolios a lot over time. As the Van Eyck ETF has just come on the ASX. So, but back to your question, the ETF of choice is Hack at the moment. Now, Hack is an ETF that essentially targets between 40 and 50 cybersecurity companies in the world. It's because I saw this happening, and we all saw it through COVID. My team manages a few $100 million worth of money, and we all had to work remotely. All of a sudden, my security in my office is the top you can imagine, but all of a sudden we had to build out more security, people working at home Wi-Fi. Yeah. As we saw the people, looks like there was a vaccine last week, this ETF got hit pretty hard because they thought, cybersecurity, as long as you put people going back to work. So that was the chance for us to get back in again.
That's my question around esports, because I know all these are related to sort of the same theme or same thematic play. You know how all the COVID stocks obviously got hit, all the ones that did well out of COVID got hit last week when the vaccine news came out, but things like esports, do you think that will stick around?
That did get knocked around a little bit. Yeah, that went. We bought it at $10, it went to 11.
People are sitting at home playing esports rather than working.
Exactly. But and then it went back to 10 pretty quickly. But that is a space where it all ties in, okay? Thinking about Telstra, the wires where people use games. Security matters to identify this is our PlayStation. Okay. They all.
I see the way you're thinking.
Yeah.
But as far as esports are concerned, it's not going to go away.
He's always been. You've been a bit of a cynic on esports.
Regardless of the pandemic or not, you're going to see growth there, aren't you?
Yeah.
Given particularly the younger generation and how they play that.
100%, and that's the more I talk to clients or the younger generation that are coming from university that are in my firm, they go around and sit around and have a night out and watch esports and someone play. It's not, you don't watch the races anymore, you know, even though that traditional gaming is always in, especially Australia's the 5th biggest gambling nation in the world.
Where, just briefly, because I know you talked about esports before, but for viewers who perhaps aren't across it, whereabouts are the esport investments? I mean, globally.
So where are the biggest esports drivers, you mean? Yeah. 70% of esports comes from Asia. Yeah. You know, so that's where the main driver is. And America is not as big as Asia, but that is the play. And we've taken a stake in a company that's called Picklebet, and that's essentially got an international license. It's sort of like a points bet. It's a wagering system for that. But yeah, like this ETF that I've spoken about a few times, it holds companies where 50% of the revenue has to come from gaming. It holds companies like Tencent. Tencent is in there. 50% of Tencent's revenue is from gaming. That surprised a lot of people.
Yeah, it's great stuff. So Telstra, SMX and Hack, they're your top picks today. Clayton.
They all through the same line.
Pleasure to have you on the program today. Thanks for joining us. Clayton Larcombe there, joining us live here in studio.